Good afternoon everyone, it is time for yet another Brawl Theory video. This time around, we will be uncovering more of the backstory behind Gus and the true fate of certain Star Park victims, while determining what it means and how it all connects to the overarching theme. Before we begin, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel with notifications on. I am really trying to reach 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so any and all support is greatly appreciated. This will be my final Brawl Theory video of the year, so I want to end off strong with something so shocking that it will be discussed for months to come. This episode will wrap a trilogy of theories that I've developed over the past few months. Brawl Theory: The Truth Behind Gus in August, Brawl Theory: Star Park's Evil Plan in September, and now, Brawl Theory: The Victim's Case in October. I hope you enjoy this final video to conclude a series that has been, in one word, incredible. Thank you for joining me on this epic journey. It's been amazing. Without further ado, let's begin. Brawl Theory: The Victim's Case starts now. It seems that the evidence is stacking up regarding the argument that the child seen in the investor video is Gus. Their hair color, pieces of clothing, connections to balloons, and numerous other things have almost made individuals certain that they are the same. As of this recording, I have noticed another very important piece of evidence: Gus's leg. If you analyze Gus's animation closely, you will notice that after he grabs the balloon, his right leg oscillates while his left leg stays completely motionless. However, the child seen in the investor video has one leg without any braces, which means that that leg isn't injured while the other one is. It's also worth noting that the leg without the brace is the same leg that Gus, the in-game brawler, moves, which could possibly hint toward them being the same person. The leg with the brace around it is the same leg with the bandage, which could symbolize the fact that when he died, he gained use of that leg, but it will forever be damaged due to certain unforeseen events that are still yet to be revealed. A few weeks ago, Brawl Stars released this animation to celebrate the release of Gus. In the video, we see a group of 5 young brawlers wave and hence greet the watchers. It is also worth noting that the background of this video is Star Park. What's even creepier is the fact that they are all children unsupervised. I believe that these are all children that have been captured by Star Park, each one of them holding heavy connections to the lore. I will elaborate on this point later on. Moreover, the video itself is very cryptic, with innuendos that can be interpreted in many different ways. However, one specific detail that stuck out to me that I felt I needed to address pertains to his name, specifically the way it is written. You may say that it was just written that way to show that Gus's handwriting is a little messy. However, I think every small detail is intentional. It is concealed there for those who are willing to analyze it, which brings me to my main point. When I first saw Gus's name badge, I didn't read it as Gus, G-U-S, but rather 6-U-S. At first, I thought I was looking too much into it. However, I found it very interesting that Gus's name was written almost as a 6. I knew it meant something important, so I started to analyze the video further to see if I could spot any more clues. Then, I glanced at the children. How many are there in total? 5. So, if the phrase 6US somehow applies to the children, then we can interpret it as the amount of children there are. So, in the video there are a total of 5 children, meaning one child is missing, or at least obscured for the time being. Gus's name plays as an allegory, with its secret meaning being interpreted when you replace the G with a 6, or read the G as an altered 6. When that happens, you get 6US, which can further be deciphered to signify 6 of us, meaning that in total there are 6 children in this group. The children in the video are all victims of Star Park, and Gus is the first brawler confirmed to be a ghost. However, he still remains attached to Star Park and these children. Why? Because they all share something in common. They have crossed paths at one point in their lives. The identity of the 6th child is still yet to be determined. However, we can assume that they face the same fate as these children did, all of them abandoned or trapped at Star Park, holding heavy connections to the lore. That would mean the children of Star Park are as follows: Nita, Leon, Bonnie, Jesse, and Gus, with the identity of the sixth child still undisclosed. I think the sixth child has an even more mysterious backstory than Gus, one that will have strong connections to Gus but have an entirely different story. I will now clarify how these 5 brawlers are heavily connected to the Star Park lore. For starters, we saw Jesse trying to get into the WKBRL room last year, which many theorized was on site at Star Park, and was being run or at least partially managed by Pam, meaning Jesse is at Star Park and something went terribly wrong.
We already told you, this is normal. 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 We already told you, this is normal.
She desperately tried to get into the broadcast room, however, was unable to due to various locks and high security systems on the premises. Why would she want to get in? What were they hiding? The answer? Her mother. Pam is not the webmaster. At this point, their identity is still unknown. However, I do believe that Pam has some serious connections to Star Park and WKBRL in general. Next is Nita and Leon, and their parents, who were all seen on the baggage blaster ride, and when they returned, only Nita and Leon were left. That means that they are now orphans stranded at Star Park, still unaware of what happened to their parents and how they got there in the first place. Bonnie is the adopted daughter of Stu, and part of the stunt show environment at Star Park. It's worth mentioning that when Stu's fireworks show was taking place at Star Park, Bonnie and Janet were also present there as entertainers. So, when the dragon invaded the performance, they were all witness to it. Take a listen. This also means that the castle courtyard environment that we received back in Season 7 is located relatively close to the stunt show environment at Star Park. And when it comes to Gus, I don't think it's a secret how strongly connected he is to the lore. He is the first brawler of a new trio, which I theorize to be the Abandoned or Victim Trio, a trio of individuals that have taken the wrong path and faced their early demise. These brawlers will have heavy connections to Star Park because, as we saw from Gus, they have a major part in their fate. Now, when it comes to determining who the sixth child is, I think it's useful if we first indicate who it isn't. Therefore, the sixth child can't be Meg, since she just looks younger than she is. I don't think she is a child, but rather a teenager, and it's also worth noting that all of the 5 brawlers have strong connections to the Star Park lore, whereas Meg has little to none. Secondly is Penny, who, like Meg, just looks younger than she is. Thirdly is Janet, who is confirmed to be a teenager, not a kid. And lastly is Sandy, who is not a child. I'm not sure if his exact age has been confirmed, however, if I were to guess, I would say he is in his early to mid-20s. On that note, we can speculate who the sixth brawler could be. For starters, it could possibly be the individual filming the video, whose identity still remains undisclosed. Secondly, it could be a member of Gus's new trio who could also be the individual filming the video. And lastly, it could possibly be a member of Grom's trio, as we see the Once Upon a Brawl castle environment in the background, possibly hinting towards its connections to Star Park or an update-related feature fitting that theme. I believe that the video that Brawl Stars made to celebrate Gus is ambiguous. There are only 5 children present with no one else in sight. This begs the question, why are these children there, and how did they get there in the first place? The answer is actually rather simple. It's not a new theory that Star Corporation was kidnapping and experimenting on certain guests while exposing them to toxins against their will. This has been the common consensus within the Brawl Stars community, but how does this relate to the children? Well, if Star Park captured their parents, we can also assume that they captured their children, brainwashing and forcing them to get involved with Star Park. Like the parents, the children are trapped and have no other choice but to obey for the sake of their existence. They are being used for advertisement purposes and manipulated to attract more children and families to Star Park. It is apparent that Gus is one of the most mysterious brawlers to date, with one of the most disturbing backstories of any brawler in the game. A child that followed a balloon dog and got lost forever, which to me doesn't sound very convincing. The balloon dog seems to move and operate on its own because, as we know, if we were to construct balloon dogs and let it go, it would stay motionless. However, this one seems to be leading Gus somewhere, or at least he led him somewhere. But the question still remains, where? Well, if you pay close attention to Gus's character in-game and in the posts Brawl Stars made, you will notice one thing: Gus's pure astonishment with balloons. It seems that Gus is in complete awe with the balloon dog, following its every move with a close eye. He appears to not only be fascinated with its unpredictability, but also its realistic actions, which can only be described as an absolute spectacle. An unexplainable phenomenon unaccompanied by any logical rationale. Something so baffling yet unequivocally intriguing at the same time. Since the balloon dog seemingly moves on its own, it hints to the fact that it is its own being, or at least a manifestation of energy. When it comes to supernatural and paranormal phenomena, the idea of certain objects or items being moved or lost is not a new conjecture. Sources state that the reason certain objects move without reasonable explanation pertains to spirits manipulating energy and space. This can explain why the balloon dog moves without any logical reasoning. If Gus's character isn't creepy enough, it seems his obsession with balloons goes even further, to the point that he believes they are living. However, I don't think that's far from the truth. You see, the balloons almost move on their own without any strings attached, apart from those that were seen attached to the kid in the investor video. At any rate, the main balloon that I feel is hiding a chilling secret is who Gus refers to as Spooky, the gray tone balloon that has a smile printed on its face and seems to be closely attached to Gus. As I theorized in my first Brawl Theory video about Gus, the balloons were tied to his fingers and was how Gus absorbed the toxic gases. However, I think it goes even deeper than that. As I was discussing earlier, these balloons seem to move involuntarily, meaning someone or something has control over it. I believe there are spirits trapped inside of the balloons, victims of Star Park, those whose fate ended abruptly. When Spooky is thrown after a certain amount of shots, a blue tone balloon appears. What's interesting is the facial features. It shares the same face as the Star Park logo, seemingly hinting toward a vital connection. Gus's in-game animation has many innuendos: his clothing, mannerisms, and overall character. However, if you were to spin his character around, it would reveal that his fingers are crossed on his right hand. I don't think that this is a coincidence. I do believe it represents something. Usually, people cross their fingers for good luck. However, I don't believe that is the case with Gus. It's also worth noting that people usually cross their fingers when they are lying or hiding something important. This begs the question, what is Gus hiding? To figure this out, we need to review his true backstory, the one given to us by Brawl Stars. It states, Gus is a master at crafting balloons. Let's stop there for a second. He is a master at crafting balloons. Have we ever seen him craft a balloon? No. We've seen him near balloons, meaning maybe Gus isn't crafting balloons. Instead, he is a spirit vessel. A child with a pure soul that many spirits are attached to and attached to. Like I was discussing earlier, I don't believe that the balloons are just balloons, but rather supernatural entities. This can explain why there are so many of them and why they are all attached to Gus. He acts as a focal point to supernatural life, the foundation of where the existence of life on Earth converges with the afterworld. This explains why Gus's ghosts operate on their own. They are spirits of deceased Star Park victims that have attached themselves to Gus as a vessel of communication and dependence. In Gus's brawler description, it states that he followed an abandoned train ride, but in spite of that, I doubt this to be entirely true. As I theorized and was later confirmed, Gus is a ghost, a deceased child that has died due to his oblivious nature and inability to be conscious of his surroundings. He was lured and trapped by Star Park, where they began testing hazardous gases on him. They filled the balloons with the original toxic air, which poisoned Gus and resulted in him facing an early demise. However, what has always perplexed me is the fact that his synopsis states he followed an abandoned train ride home. That doesn't make sense to me, which is why I think his brawler backstory is a deception. The balloon Mortis is holding is the exact same balloon that Gus holds. You may say that it's not, however, let's compare it to Gus's balloon in his pins. Let's look at his happy pin for instance. What do you notice? The exact same purple balloon. However, when you look at Gus's character in-game, he is holding a gray tone balloon. How is that possible? Here, let me explain. If we were to be certain that Gus's balloons were filled with the toxic gases, then it would make sense that Gus would also be filled with that toxic gas, seeing as though they are relatively the same color and the balloons were adhered to Gus's fingers. However, if the balloon was originally purple, how did it turn gray? The answer, the poison gas. What color is the gas? Green. If you mix green with purple, what color do you get? A mixture of blue and gray. That's right, the same color tone as Gus's balloons in-game. This means that Gus's balloon was originally purple before any experimentation took place, and once it was filled with the green toxic gas, it changed color and became light gray color like we see in-game. The next thing that I would like to address is the train, which is so significant it is mentioned in Gus's brawler description and is one of the main points of focus in the brawler introduction post about Gus. Since Gus was announced, I had suspicions about the train. They referred to it as abandoned, but to me, that doesn't really make sense. Instead, I believe it is only abandoned to the naked eye. Those who are living cannot see the individuals inside of it because they are ghosts, which means the train itself is fully occupied. To the living, it seems that the train is abandoned and unoccupied. However, that isn't the case at all. The train is actually what in folklore and urban legends referred to as a ghost train. A train of spirits and the paranormal, a place occupied by the existence of supernatural entities. We can assume that the majority of these supernatural entities are Star Park victims that have died as a result of their immortal acts. This isn't a new development. The idea of ghost trains goes deep into the ghost lore of phantom vehicles that have the ability to move without anyone at the helm. One of Gus's voice lines literally confirms this, as he says,
"I miss the ghost train,"
further proving the fact that the train is not abandoned, only accessible to those that have departed from the world. It is also worth noting that most ghost trains are spotted at amusement parks, meaning even though it is mostly occupied by supernatural beings, Star Park still oversees what is going on. They are using it as an exhibit, unaware of what their actions have accidentally created. We may see the ghost train modified in the future to fit in with some of the current Brawl Stars themes and environments. Furthermore, the idea of a locomotive for the deceased can explain why we see ghosts squeak nearby the train and this mysterious severed limb from an individual in which we can assume is dead. However, we might not be seeing the big picture. This is not just a limb of an insignificant character, but rather the extremity of an unknown brawler, one who might fit with Gus's abandoned or victim trio, the supernatural trio. This new undisclosed brawler could have the ability to detach their limbs and use them as attacks. This would fit perfectly with the Brawloween and undead theme, since we already have Frankenstein, a vampire, and a zombie in the game. Now with Gus being essentially confirmed to be a ghost, it's inevitable that we see more creepy additions to the still unconfirmed brawler trio. However, I don't think we'd receive another zombie brawler since we don't see replicated brawlers. But keep in mind, the new brawler must fit in with the theme of ghosts. so possibly a skeleton brawler, or what I think is more likely, ghouls. The idea of ghosts and ghouls in Greek mythology goes way back in time. They are known to dwell in cemeteries and other inhabited places. What's a synonym for uninhabited? Abandoned. How does this relate back to the overarching theme in Brawl Stars? The ghost train. That's right, this is the origin of it all, where all of the Brawl Stars spirits and paranormal phenomenon reside, if that be from Star Park or just in general. If we were to deem this theory as fact, we can assume that from there, we would most likely be receiving an environment to fit this theme. Possibly the abandoned cemetery, ghost territory, or an abandoned train station, the home and existence of the supernatural. Continuing to analyze the post Brawl Stars made for Gus, we would be able to spot the green poison gas, the same design of the poison we see in Solo Showdown, and the same poison that was discharged into the air back in the investor video. This could also be another hint towards Star Park's connections to the Underground Railway. The poison gas also seems to be extremely toxic, as is evident from the harmed raccoon. However, even though Gus is exposed to the gas, he seems to be unharmed, which further proves the theory that Gus is in fact already dead. Gus was not only the initial source of the incursion between the living and the dead, but the primary attachment to the supernatural entities. The abandoned train is actually a ghost train, where certain paranormal apparitions lurk and travel, only perceptible to those who have passed on. Gus's balloons are actually the spirits of deceased Star Park victims that have attached themselves to Gus as a means for eternal life. The balloon dock is not just a coax, it is a depiction of us, an implied metaphor associated with the idea of possessing core human qualities. How our subconscious mind tempts us to make certain decisions and acquire an innate tendency to commit instinctive impulses through our sense of curiosity and fascination with spectacle. Star Park thrives by tempting the human subconscious mind, falsely preaching the presence of universal human desires such as perpetual freedom, lasting happiness, and eternal peace as an intricate trap.
But hey, that's just a theory, a brawl theory.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe to show your support. It goes a very long way. Have a great day ahead, stay safe, and I will see you guys in the next video.